I very often then, as much as I could from Baghdad to Cairo, and
Good evening all. We'll get started in a few minutes. Nice to see some familiar names and faces up there. And all come to watch some paint spin and possibly dry. Hello David, nice to see you there.
Hi there.
Nick, yeah, we've exchanged a few emails lately. And Hayley, hello, nice to see you after the demo from it feels like ages ago, but it's actually only just over a week ago, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'll give a few minutes for people to come in, then I'll spotlight my feed so that it'll come through to everyone. Hello Steve, nice to see you as well. So if during the course of it you've got any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and ask away. I don't have anyone monitoring the stream to give me a nod when there's a question or to read them out or anything, so I'll keep an eye on them. I'll just get the chat pinned up so I can see that. Should be able to I thought you used to be able to pin the chat to the, but I can't at the moment. Okay, let's stick that over on this screen out of the way, make it a little bit bigger. So the meeting is being recorded, so if you don't make it all the way through, I'll send you a link out to the recording later on as well. It is now 7 o'clock, so I'll go to spotlight for everyone so that you don't just see me as the little screen, and I can have some little thumbnail videos. I thought I could put them to let me put them over there. Right, so all I can see on the screen is me, which is, some of you might say that's how he likes it. Well, I do like being able to see people as well. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I haven't set my monitor up for two people. Now I've got the original sound set to on. I will actually, I can put you as a grid over here. Why didn't I think of that? That's good. Right, I can do that, then I can see some of you anyway. Good. Right, so I've got the sound set to without doing any zoom processing. If it gets a bit noisy in here, let me know. What I'm going to show tonight are just some really fun, easy ways to do centrifugal colouring. I've done some proper preparation, shock horror. often when I go and do a demo, I'll just turn a piece of wood and won't sand it. I'll just put some lacquer on and say, "We'll look better if you'd prepared it." So preparation for making a centrifuge, and it doesn't have to be black, but I do like to start with a painted surface, and I'll explain why in a moment. Turn it, try to get it fairly level. You can see here I've got a little bit of a dip in there, but that's going to make it interesting to lead the eye in anyway. And then sand, and for lacquer I sand to 400. I used an inertia sander, a wide pad, so that I'm sanding it as quickly as possible. It is quite dusty in my workshop. You can probably see picking up some flecks of dust on there. That's an inevitability of not having a finishing workshop. Still working on that with the management at home. So sanded to 400, sanding sealer. Because I do so much work with spirit stains, I pretty much always use an aerosol sanding sealer now. So acrylic sanding sealer, and then on the top I have put a couple of coats of Chestnut's ebonizing lacquer. It's not quite the same as paint. We'll have a look at that a little later on when I've got a paint one for you. This has got lacquer on it, and you can still see the grain coming through, whereas paint often will hide that. Between coats I rubbed down briefly just to give it a smoother surface as possible with a rather grubby orange piece of Web. You could use sandpaper, but probably anything more than 400 is going to be a bit too much. So if you use 400 very lightly, probably something like 800 will be better. And really what you're aiming for is a surface that is smooth and slippery for the paint to move on. Although I'm trying to do 5 centrifuge colouring effects in an hour. Your heads are going to be spinning. Poor jokes, I know. And don't forget, I can see your reactions now on the monitor over there. So make sure if you're laughing, you've got to make it large because you're very little on that screen. So that's had 2 coats of ebonizing lacquer. It's had time to dry. In fact, that shot's a very nice one for showing you that the lacquer still lets the grain come through. So some of the easiest ways of making centrifuge spins of colour are to use the Chestnut iridescent paints. I liked using their metallic paints as well. You can use them straight from the bottle. They're nice and runny, and they make very nice fine thin lines. So if I just change the camera, I'll give you a close-up. I've got a blank on here already. It's got treated exactly the same as the one I've just shown you. There is a little bit of dust on there. I'm wearing gloves because my hands will get paint on them inevitably. And just because I'm in the workshop as well, I've got safety shoes on, and I am, of course, as you've seen, wearing safety glasses. I've been experimenting. I've got some rather swanky looking ones, but the prescription wasn't quite right. Cool, they make me look a bit owlish, don't they? So far stuff is beautifully in focus, but the near stuff not quite sharp enough, although they are a bit cleaner than these rather grubby ones. Who knows, we might see me swap into them later on if I want to feel more colourful myself. So safety glasses as well. You are putting paint on spinning wood. It won't come spinning at you. It just spins a nice little line out across the face, that plane only. But I have taken these off at the end of a day and found them covered in paint. I think it's more likely me putting them on with my finger, but you don't want to get paint in your eye. So do pay attention to health and safety. So I like these colours because they make very nice thin streams of colour. So we start off with some of these. Just put them on with a paintbrush. Just get a little palette to put the paint into. I've got here a little silicone mould, which is great for easy washing out of colours. So I'll stick that down on the lathe bed here. I've got a high angle so you can see what I'm doing. There's no trickery involved. And don't forget, if you do have a question, unmute your mic and ask away. I think there's not enough people in here to make it everyone's going to speak at once. So this is the Chestnut Turquoise. Do give them a good shake. I'll just pop some in there. I'm going to put a fair amount in because I'm going to use it probably a couple of times. and just a paintbrush. That's all you need to put it on. I find there are two ways. You can put the paint on with the wood spinning, or you can put it on with the wood still. If you want a neater version, I'll often put it on with the wood spinning. Not very fast, because I don't want it necessarily to start moving yet, but this will allow you to put on a nice concentric ring of colour, and getting that concentric ring of colour gives you a bit more choice about how you want to turn the wood away. Now we can crank the speed up. We've got some on, and you should see it beginning to spread across. I can see it's come out to about there now. Now I've got a bit of paint on there, I can put a bit more on. Spin it up a bit faster. You want to get it to about 2000. There we go, I can see that moving across more. Now I've also made myself, which is quite handy, a little rack like this to put the paintbrushes in. Right, let's see how we've got on with that. Right, so I've got some very, very nice strong lines you'll see coming across there. I think I might need a little bit more light on there for you. Yeah, that gives a bit of difference. So you can see these paints make very thin lines almost immediately. They do show up a bit brighter in here than they're showing on the camera at the moment. Part of that, I think, is because this box is putting them into a bit of shade. That does make a bit of difference. Yeah, I think that makes a bit of difference. So that could be where you leave it. You know, one colour can look quite classy. So if you want to keep it neat, that's the neatest kind of centrifuge, where you put a solid colour on and it spreads out. I'll just get my venerable hairdryer out and give that a little dry to put another colour on. And I've just noticed a cry for help from someone who can't get into the meeting for some reason. I'll just see if I can help them with that very quickly. I might have to employ someone to be my assistant at these events. Right, so I need just copy the code and bear with me just a moment, because it'd be nicer to get him in. Copy the invitation and right, let's try that. Hopefully that will work. We'll find out soon. Right, so I just want to dry that off. Ordinarily you want to let the paint dry naturally. You don't want to speed up the drying, because often what happens is you just dry the surface. So just leave that running. Just get the next colour ready. Now there is an opportunity for you to join in and choose colours, so give that some thought for later on.
Orange.
Orange! Is that the voice of Mr. Phoebe coming from the depths of the internet somewhere? Right. Right, let me just do that. 946048.
I'm in a Zoom meeting. Stuart Freedy in England.
Oh, hello. We've got people from all over the world joining. So, here we go. I've got yellow because this will show up very nicely. No problem.
I'm muted.
You're unmuted. Hi, is that you, Valerie?
Oh, sorry, I'm not.
You are now. Okay, right, so a bit of yellow. I'll come on the high camera again so you can see the exciting pouring moment. The yellow, yellow and black is a lovely combination. I will need, of course, a fresh brush. Now I've got some choices about where I put this. I can put it on. I can put it onto that blue, but immediately that's going to probably turn it into green to begin with. So I'm actually going to start a little further back, and I'll just have it spinning at a lowish speed, just to establish some of the colour. And then we'll crank the speed up, and you'll see that probably move much more readily and easily. We've got someone else without a mute on their mic. So there we go. So that's given us a nice sort of mixture of green and yellow, and of course the original blue in there. Now I like the fact that it's mostly going all the way to the edge, but this is quite nice with shorter runs of it as well. I mean, one thing to say, that because these have been turned on the lathe, sanded, finished, taken off and then put back on, they're not quite true. And sometimes that puts them, when you put them back on the lathe, you know, it's almost impossible sometimes to get them exactly level and running true, and that can bias the way that the paint moves. But that's what I like about this thin paint. It really does make a very smooth movement, and it moves much better over the painted surface. So this is one way of using these paints. You don't have to do any preparation for them, just use them straight from the packet. I'm tempted, and this is a first, I'm tempted just to leave it with those two colours, and let it dry and take a still picture of it, which I think would be a good thing to do, because I'll show you a slightly different way now of using the same paints, get a slightly different effect. So just take that one off. Got a camera that often gives a much better view, but I forgot to turn it on. I'll just turn that on now, and often this one, when it's on, gives a better picture. So this is the overhead camera. So there you go, you can see there we've got the green and the yellow, very fine lines. I think that's probably the best angle to do it. And I'll take some still pictures of that and send them out with the recording link later on. But that's a very nice subtle effect. Now what you can do with that is you can decide how far back you want to turn the bowl out. You could turn it past the rings of colour, or you could leave them in. I think with this they're quite faint. Maybe the yellow is a bit bolder than this turquoise from earlier. But if you turn them away, then you're just left with this very fine edge, which can look quite elegant, which let's be honest, elegant isn't really a word that you associate with me, I'm sure. Right, let's do some other stuff with the same paints, but with a different look. So put another blank on. And actually there isn't an orange in the chestnut paint lexicon. There is a red, and there is a yellow, and maybe I'll use the similar colours, but I'm going to put them on in a different way. And I'm going to leave the inner part for a different paint, different colour to go on. So let's see what paints I've got, so I can reuse the brushes. I'm going to put some red in there. I need a little bit more turquoise, and In fact, I think I might use slightly different brushes. So the brushes I used first of all were round brushes, but I want to put bands of colour on. So I'm going to use these flat brushes here. They're maybe about 1/2 inch wide. So that will give us a wider band of colour. And I want to put these colours on with the wood spinning again. I want to keep the circles concentric, but I don't want it spinning at top speed. Go a little bit lower. Okay, and I think I'll start off with the turquoise. We just put a band of colour, a couple of coats. So turquoise. Then I think, and I'm going for in-your-face bold colours. You could try this with subtler colours if you wanted. You might decide, actually, I just like it with concentric circles. I don't want to do the spinning. There's a bit of red. The red perhaps won't show up quite as bold on the surface, but I'm hoping to get that to run into the yellow and give us a bit of a mixture as well. Got to move while these paints are still wet. Obviously out here you can see the yellow is a lot thinner because it's the same amount on the brush is spread covering a larger area, so you need to adjust the amount of paint. I think I'm just going to do that for that one, and I'll finish with some red, and we'll see how that works with just one coat of turquoise. Then the fun part, crank up the speed. Now when you're doing it with lots of rings of colour, don't immediately jump to a very fast speed, because you could get the colours just all running into each other and becoming rather blurred. But can you see here the yellow is looking here a distinct orange hue, so that will please you, Roger. Let's just see if there we go, put a bit more light on there. It blinds me a little bit, but that's giving us a bit more. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got nice lines of colour running through each other. The blue has moved a little bit, but not very much actually. Now that was on for the longest. It's probably the one that's perhaps dried the most. On balance, I think it would look better if we had another blue in there. Line of blue anyway, but we'll just have to put up with that. I see a question, Phil. Do I thin the paint? Was someone was about to ask something as well?
Yeah, Stuart, how fast were you turning it originally when you first put the bands on?
When I first put the bands on, let's see, my readout says about 400 or so, 350, okay. 400. Yeah, and then it spins up to past 2000. I'm not very happy with the blue. I think these colours look very nice next to each other, but I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit and see if I can get some life into the blue. So I'm going to put a bit more blue on. It could be a mistake, but one of the things I like about using this technique is you can stand here for quite some time playing around with colour and getting interesting results, and just keep turning it with wet paint. So we can see there, look at that blue moving into the yellow. It's moving past the yellow, pushing the yellow into the red. So that's running now at about 2,500. And then we'll spin that down. So these paints are not thinned. Oh, that's given a rather interesting effect. I said earlier about blanks being a little bit out of balance, and this one is definitely a little bit out of balance. You can see that's reflected in the way it's moved there. But I think that's ruined it. I probably span it a bit too fast. But I am not going to be deterred, because often you can fix a lot of what's going on. Just turn the speed back down, come back to your paints, get a bit of yellow in that space. And fire up again. So put that brush down, bring the speed up. let's put a nice bright band in the middle there. Right, so there we go. We've got our even edge back again. The blue has almost completely disappeared. I'm just going to protect what we've got there a little bit with a bit of surface drying. So hair dryer on. Spin it round. Put it on the hottest setting. Okay, now if you've gone to all of that trouble and you don't like it, you don't have to turn it all off. We can just put more colour over the top, and this will help give a bit of texture and structure to the paint that we put on it. So just as a way of demonstrating that, I'm going to start all over with completely different colours. Now these colours, these are artists' paints from Jo Sonja. These you do need to thin down, and I'll show you why. In comparison to the paints, that the very runny paints that are the chestnut paints, this is a lot thicker. So I'll just pop some out. So you can see there how it holds its shape. Thick strands of paint. If I put that on, it will not move at all. Now the way to make it move is not to add water, although if all you have is water, that's okay, but thin it down with some flow medium. So this is Jo Sonja Flow Medium. It's an acrylic medium. It will thin the paint but not the colour. So this is something worth having in your paint armoury. If you want it to move as freely as these chestnut colours, you'll need to thin it down at least 50-50, which is kind of what I've done. There's a large lump. Some of the paints are thicker than others when they start off in the tube. And one of the fun things can be putting wet paint over itself, like we've seen here, how that red has taken on a sort of, well actually I think the blues help to make it a bit darker, a sort of dark, almost burgundy colour. Right, let's go on to it. So this, I'm going to have the speed down. I'm just going to use this as a canvas to put other colours on as if there's nothing there. Because the most important thing about doing a process like this is seeing how far you can go with it, playing around with it, having a bit of fun. That's going to obliterate probably most of everything underneath it, but it will follow those lines. It'll put a bit of texture in it already for us. Oh, I like the boldness of that. I'm going to show you what happens if I put one of my favourite colours on the top of it, and that is this wonderful pink. It doesn't quite show up the brightness of the pink on the monitor. I'd have to do some colour calibration. But when I walked into Hobbycraft and saw this pink on the rack, I thought, I have to have some of that. That's a fabulous, fabulous colour. Again, this is a bit too thick to use as it is. So again, we want some of the flow medium going in. And you're not using a huge amount of each of these paints, so you know, you can get quite a lot of life out of a tube. Now, one thing you might have seen other people do, and it's something I'm not as fond of, but I will just do some of that, is rather than put a ring of paint, they put blobs of paint. And you have to do this fairly speedily if you don't want the paint to start running, and then they'll spin it out from those dots. I'll just do this as an example. Myself, I'm not usually as satisfied with it done like that. Don't think we need to spin it quite as fast, but perhaps with this one, if I were to think, okay, well, it's quite interesting, a bit broken up, but what if I put other dobs of colour in there and let them run through each other? So give me some suggestions for other colours while I root around in my box and call them out, and I'll see if I've got one. In that case, I'm going to do
some white and some green.
White and some green. Look at that. I've got white in my hand. Now, these paints, again, if you're in the UK, Hobbycraft, Pebeo, I think you can get these in the States as well. They are about half the price of the Jo Sonja paints. They're not quite as strong in their pigments across the whole of the colour range. They are a little bit runny in comparison to the Jo Sonja paints as well, so they won't need quite so much thinning down, but they do need a little bit. So I just put about to put pink in it to thin it down with pink. Back to the flow medium, just a little. So the white is often a nice colour to add into a centrifuge effect because it gives a very nice sharp strong colour. Whether that sharp strong colour will survive against all of these other colours, we shall have to see. And we don't have to stop here even. We could decide that actually we want to put some more rings of colour on. Right, fire it up. Right. Now, what has happened there? Anyone got an idea?
Yes, it's a mess.
Yes. Why is it a
Too
mess?
thick.
Too thick. Did someone say too thick?
Too thin.
Too thin. I think it's because it's too thick myself, and it hasn't really moved as much as I'd like it to. So
Looks like a seagull's visited.
it does look like a seagull's visit. Good. Please don't hold back. I don't want people thinking, oh, something Stuart's done. It must be brilliant. It's a mess. White can sometimes really ruin things. If it looks like it's ruined, I don't know. We'll just try it and try and spin it at a bit faster speed. Might spin it all off then. While I was looking for a copper. This is what I like doing. I just like playing and seeing what happens. Not very much else has happened with that, has it? Okay. Do we leave it on, or do we put something all over the top of it? I'm going to leave it where it is for now. And I'm going to use some copper because there was a request for some metallic. This again is a Jo Sonja one. This is their burnished copper. Their metallic acrylic paints are very strong. And copper might go nicely with a bit of green. Rapidly working my way through my paintbrushes. I might have to take a pause to do some
He's
brush
doing a
washing.
demonstration, some pros and cons of what he's doing, but he's emphasizing what can do. Mixing the colors is really hard sometimes.
So let's get that turned down. Spinning. I'm going to
The
do
very
a
first one we did,
solid colour
Quite
of
pretty interesting.
the gold,
Now he's getting a lot of globs.
and then spin up. And we've got another unmuted mic. Let's see if we can just find where that is. Right, so we're spinning that and seeing what's happening there.
Yep.
Right. haven't spun it quite so fast. Let's see what we've got there. Right, so it's still in the centre, so let's spin it up a bit faster. Can we see that edge moving a little bit better? Put a little bit more on. And give it another look. Right, so I think that works nicely in these areas, but the white has really given me a bit of a headache to try to get rid of, because it hasn't worked at all. What I'll do to show why I think it's too thick is I'll thin it down a bit more. So, got a bit more of the flow medium in there. Mix it up to be much thinner. And we'll put some blobs here, and we'll see if it's been mixed thin enough, if it's enough to save my reputation.
If you were to add a dot of color in the middle of the one.
So this is one of the reasons I don't like the blobs approach, because you get the gaps between them. You don't get the same uniformity of colour spreading. But that should be a bit thinner. Yeah, so here you see these are the thinner ones. We've got thinner lines rather than them clumping together. So kind of there, but really at the moment this one is now looking rather overworked and a bit sorry for itself. Do we all agree? Thumbs up or nods of head. Excellent. I also give myself a thumbs up for it being rather rubbish at the moment. But this is the playful one. This is the experimental one. So I'm going to put white all over it now. And I do have one of these little squirty water bottles. I'm just going to prime it up, make sure it's squirting properly. If I am restrained and just do one quick squirt, I'm not going to do too much damage. If I do any more, it probably will wash all the paint off. So there we go. That was just one squirt. You saw how it washed from the middle, but hopefully that's pushing it further to the edge. Okay, good. Now that is beginning to almost be something that I could live with in part. And the part that I can live with is this part out here, not this bit here. So I'm going to try to make this even more vibrant. I'm going to use up some of the paints that I've got. I've got my bright pink in here. Let's go with that. And so this will run into that edge. Hands up if you think I'm making it up as I go along. I always have done. Oh no, well there is one more making it up as I go along one to come. Right, that is, yeah, still on the outside edge, but there is where we've got those other blobs of colour is pretty grim. I think we can all agree. Right, so I am going to do something a little more experimental and try and frame this. Now, if you've been to any of my demos, the last demo I was at, I said to people, if it doesn't work, you still don't like it, try black, and if the black doesn't save it, it's got to come off. So let's see, will this save the day? Well, it will save the day if it completely covers it all in black. So I'm going to put a bit of black in, and I'm going to thin it down with the flow medium, which I've put up here, just to allow it to move a little better. I'm going to put it on a middle line, but I may also use it for an edge. So quite a lot of flow medium has gone into this black, perhaps a little more than I intended. This black is not as strong black as I'd like it, so I'm going to put a tiny bit more of the paint back in. Oh, and drop the lid on the floor. I'll pick that up. Okay. So let's get that mixed in, and let's get the wood spinning. I'm going to put it about here. Right, let's see how far that moves. I need it to go a bit further. Okay. Oh, the suspense is killing me. Come on, that view. Let's have a look. Okay. Right. Next thing for me to do is I've got this nicer transition point, I think, but it feels a bit strange to come straight in from the edge. So I'm now going to attempt to paint a neat line. You could do this with an airbrush and some paint. I want to find a speed where it's spinning relatively fast but without much vibration, and I'm going to load my brush, and this is where having the flow medium in it is going to prove helpful, because it will help the colour move much more easily and freely over the surface. Often getting a frame in on your colouring really will lift it and elevate it. I probably could do with a better quality brush. It's got a little trailing bit there. Let's see if that's going to have done enough. Yes, well, I think that's enough for me to think there's something there that I can salvage, but I can't turn it yet. There's too much wet paint on there. But I will take a picture of this one as well, because I suspect there are a number of you sitting at home thinking, oh, that looks really horrible. Are there any of you sitting at home, oh, that looks really horrible? Nod, thumbs up. I think it's got some potential, but you have to ignore the middle. Now, it might be that the potential of this is could be improved by, instead of having this black as a ragged line, had it as a straight line. Do we think that might look better? Oh, I'm looking at your faces. There's, oh no, thank you, Dave. You're saying no, keep it jagged.
Looks fine as it is.
Ah, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Colin. Right, I'll put that to one side and let that dry. And we'll move on to number 3. Where did I put my chuck key? I've been so disciplined about putting it back.
Top of the box.
Top of the box. There you are. It's good having you lot here. Otherwise I wouldn't know where I was. Right, now, you've just seen there me playing around, having a bit of an experiment. You might make you think, oh, this centrifugal colouring isn't really for me. It just looks all a bit hit and miss. However, I want to try and dispel that, so I'm just going to show you one that I've done several times before, and I've got some finished examples to show you, and I'm just having to clean out some brushes. So what I've found, because I don't have running water in my shop, is I have one pot that all the brushes go into, and I'll put the ones that I know I'm probably not going to use again in there, and then I just use 3 other pots to rinse the colours out from them. But black and white may need to be used again, so let's just put these away. Just get these ready for action. Now, I have seen a turner. I don't think he does turning anymore. A turner on one of the Channel Islands, who's done a few of these, the exact same colour combination. My red and gold, I call it. So if you want to have a go at this, that's fine. But I think it's about time someone tried it with some different colours. I put those there to show in a moment. And one of the things that is useful about doing this technique is I move away from having just a plain background. This is one where I start talking at demos about how I like there to be some idea of some depth in the colour. So I'm going to put a background on with just a bit of paper towel, level 1 paper towel application, if you know my dabbing lines and cylinders. So just a little, dried bit of paint there, just a little smidge of paint. I want to just spread that around on the cloth to not have a great big blob of paint go on, and then I'll start in the inside and then work to the outside. Now this is quite a nice way of creating a paint texture on a rim without even doing the centrifuge, but I think this is a nice way of adding some interest in the background behind the colours. This is like the sort of cosmic star field going on behind what I'm doing. And when you're putting something like this on around a blank, you can see, I think you can probably see here it looks a bit bald, here it looks a bit bald, and down there as well. So make sure that you evaluate where the colour has gone. It might look random and chaotic, but if you leave gaps around the edges, which is probably what would happen if it really were random, it just doesn't look right. So silver goes on as a background colour, but again this could be done with a whole range of different colours. Then gold. Now I prefer to use a rich gold for this. You can get pale gold. I think this might be fun to do with turquoise greens and maybe a copper metallic colour, but I'll leave that for someone else to have a go at, unless I get to it first. I do need to make some more videos for my YouTube channel, don't I? Are you all desperate for some new ones? So there's the gold paint. Just squidge it around so that it covers more of the paper, so you're not just going to put it on in one big blob. And again, start in the middle because that's going to be covered up with our centrifuge. Still a bit strong, so now I'll just work that round to the edges. Bit heavy there, but that will get covered up. Now the first centrifuge one I did was all about keeping it concentric. This one is very much not concentric. So edges. So I talked about making sure you don't miss anything. If you've put too much on in an area, try and smooth that out. So a clean bit of paper will help you out there, just to spread it around and lessen that one a little bit. It's a little bit thick there. Let's just move that around now. So that's our background colours. I'll just get the hairdryer running on that and mix up the next two colours. So the next two colours are gold and red. So put some gold in there. And red. Now make sure you get an opaque red. If the red is not opaque, it will not look as good. Right, just leaving that turning to get a bit drier. So I've got my red and my gold. Let's get a paintbrush for the gold. Where did I put those clean paintbrushes somewhere? Oh, there they are. Okay. So just a bit of water on this brush. It's better to actually have the brush wet. So I'm going to put gold, red and gold on, and the reason I'm going to do 2 layers of gold is I want to have the gold as a background and a foreground colour. I think it just helps to frame the red that I'm going to put on. I'm going to put it on with the lathe stationery and blob it around, and it's going to be uneven deliberately. So it's a bit thicker here, and I'll go with it a bit thicker here. Now I think this technique, more than perhaps some of the other colouring techniques you've seen me do, is one that really does need to have that middle turned out to really make it look like, oh, I've done something that isn't just a dog's dinner of paint all over the place. So you have to have faith that, or imagine that you turn the middle out and it looks very different. It gives it a frame. So let's spin this. It shouldn't move evenly, but I do want to get the gold lines coming all the way to the edge. I can see them about here now. Yeah, I can just see them moving along pretty much at the edge, if my eyesight isn't failing. That's not going as fast. That's only going at 1800. If it's not fast enough, we can put it back on. Yeah, there we go. So we've got, you can see here, hasn't moved so much here, which probably doesn't matter too much, but we can correct that. We can just put a little blob on there and fire it up again. And just give it a little burst of speed. And then that's better. I want that all over. So now I put the red in here, although you're looking at it, aren't you, and say, Stuart, you've missed a bit here. Well, that bit I think I can cover with some red. I don't think it'll matter, but if it does worry anyone, I'll just put a little blob of gold there while I'm mixing up this last colour. Now, I mean, the only thing that's really different with this and makes each of the ones that I make with this technique unique is this shape in the middle. So I'm mixing up the gold. I've mixed up the gold. I'm mixing up the red now. So metallic paints, just look at the question. Adding dots of colour inside other dots of colour, then spin it. Yes, that would be a very interesting thing to do. I have plans to do that when I have finished perfecting my horizontal centrifugal machine. If any of you were at the Chestnut Woodturning weekend, Andrew Hall did a fabulously entertaining, engaging demo using a potter's wheel, a children's potter wheel with small blanks on. Of course, I want to be able to spin mine much faster with heavier things on than he did, and I just haven't got the weighting of it worked out yet. I've got my chuck mounted on the potter's wheel, which is only about 3 inches across. It's just not stable enough. I've got to build it into some framework that will hold it. That might be the subject of a future free Zoom meeting, who knows. So the red is mixed. Red, a lot of reds end up looking a bit transparent for some reason, so beware of that. Even this one, which says it's opaque, ends up being a little bit faded once it's dry. So here's the hairdryer. Yeah, notice your comment, Mark. It didn't stay clean for long. This isn't the one that is new. This is my, oh, it failed its pat test because I've got some tape on the bottom. So it doesn't leave it doesn't leave the workshop and no one else can use it. I need to get that gold dry enough to put the red over the top. You can see it changing where it's drying. Hopefully that's enough. It might not be, but we'll see. Come on to the tailstock camera. So where the gold has come out further, that's where I'm going to make the red go on a bit thicker. I don't want it to completely cover up all of this gold. I want some gold showing through for when we put the final bit of gold over the top. And a little bit more there. And if this doesn't go far enough, then we can put some more on. So we've watched that red move across, gold's gone a little bit orange. It's not gone quite as far as I would like. It's a little bit on the thick side. I haven't got any moving up there, so I will put a little more there. And give it another spin. Probably for shorter, but a bit faster. Get it up to top speed and then stop. Right, I'm happier with that. So you can see here now, so we've got the two layers. We've got the gold underneath there, the red on the top, but I want some red as the centerpiece. Some gold, sorry, as the centerpiece. So we're going to have to get the hairdryer running again, only for a moment, just to surface dry it. And as the surface dries, you might see it getting a little duller. And when you do force dry, take care not to burn the paint.
What's the normal drying time if you don't use the dryer?
If you don't use the dryer, an acrylic paint like this thick, you probably want to leave it a good half an hour, if not a bit longer. Which is, you know, if you've got other things going on, if you've got other chucks, your workshop isn't too dusty, you can take the chuck off and work on something else, or go and have a cup of tea. The gold isn't quite as thick as the red. I mean, with this, you'll see that probably the surface drying is enough. All the ones I'm going to show you have been dried with a hair dryer, because they've been things that I've done at demos. It's probably dry enough, but you might, if you're a little bit heavy-handed, or you do it a little bit too soon, you might get the gold mixing with the red and ruining the crispness of the two colours. So that's the thing to try to avoid. We'll see how successful I've been in a moment. So a bit of gold. I don't want to work it too much or touch the brush too much onto the red. So I'm just going to do a few dabs of it. And there we go. Right. So spin this up nice and fast. Watch the lines go, make sure all the red doesn't get obliterated. Turn off, have a quick peek. If you need to turn it back on again, that's not a problem. Right, that's enough. Now, I have here, I said this is something that is repeatable. So I've got this one here from a demo. Oh, did I do this? I think I did this Colchester turner. So you can see very similar effect coming out. The colours have they've dried, and the eagle-eyed amongst you will spot, what's that strange line? Well, that is testament to making sure that you check that the wood spins freely and that the tool rest isn't in the way. Now, and what I've got here, where you've got a crisp edge against it, it lifts it. At the moment, on the one on the lathe looks a little bit messy. And here is one that hasn't had the centre turned out, but has got some finish on. Now I think the finish on this really helps to lift it. It's been in and out of a sack of blank, so you can see it's got a few scratches on it. But the finish that I've used on here is a better finish in my view than lacquer, which is what I've used pretty much all through making of these decorative pieces. Got some yellow paint on there now. And that finish is a wipe-on polyurethane. Now it's not something that's so common over here. It's just something that Chestnut Products have recently released, and they sent me a sample bottle of it. I really like it over paint, because over here where we've got all these lines are going to be slightly higher and they're slightly raised up, the wipe-on poly acts as a leveler, because there's not a huge difference in the depth of those things. So wipe-on poly is a fun one to use, particularly over paint, because it helps with that leveling. But there we go, we've got two here that you can see they're very similar, and the one on the headstock is very similar. Yes,
It's David here. When you're using the wipe on, what do you use, a brush or a cloth?
I've tried a couple of ways. I've tried it with paper towel, or cloth, sorry, which I wasn't that happy with, but I was much happy with a foam brush. I found that I preferred doing that. I mean, the difference between using this and an aerosol, of course, is you pour some out. Don't just dip it into the brush, and then you might end up pouring too much out. So it's not perhaps quite as economical if you're heavy-handed with your pouring. So try not to pour out more than you need, because I wouldn't want to put it back in the bottle. So we've got 3 done, and there's 2 minutes left, and I was aiming for 5. That was ambitious, wasn't it? Chuck key has been put away properly. Again, I'll turn the inside of this to get a clean edge against it so that you can see the difference. Right, so I don't think I can do 2 more, but which one interests you most? Yellow or black?
Yellow.
One.
Yellow?
Yellow.
I've never done the yellow one. So this is what I was talking about, the difference between using lacquer and using paint. So this has had paint put on it, and apart from the fact there's a grubby fingerprint somewhere, you can't see any of the grain of the wood. It takes all of that away. The lacquered ones, we could see the grain. Now I've been asked several times, does the background have to be black? And I've always said no, it can be whatever colour you want, and I've never done it a different colour. So tonight it's a different colour, and I'm going to hand over to you. You've seen a range of different techniques: concentric circles spreading outwards, concentric rings of colour next to each other, the odd blob, an asymmetrical centre blob. Can we do something collaboratively? It'll probably look awful, just saying, but I'm opening it up to you to unmute your mic and say, well, at least a colour, or concentric circles, or crazy random blobs all over the place.
No blobs.
One at a time.
Blue and green.
Blue and green. I heard green. Okay, green. Did someone say blue?
Blue.
Blue.
And Stuart, could
Yeah.
you do semicircles?
Steve, for you, I can do anything.
Good.
Now, when you say semicircles, do you mean concentric semicircles, or do you just mean semicircles
I'm
random?
doing it the other way round. So the bottom of the semicircle touches the centre.
Like that?
Yes.
Ooh, what a nice idea. Well, let's mix up some green and see what happens. This is a very green.
Lots of hope.
Do you want some orange, Roger, if you're still here?
No.
No?
No, try some black. Goes well with yellow.
Black and yellow, I know. The most contrast, creates the most contrast, those two colours.
How about starting your circles from the outside working in rather than inside working out?
Oh, that's another nice idea. Yeah, so start here so that they spin colour, and then the other ones. Nice idea. But Steve got in first with his semicircles. He wants to see. I think he really wants to see how accurately I can paint a semicircle freehand. He says, looking around desperately for something, a compass that a paintbrush can go in, or.
Use a coffee cup.
Or my special semicircular blank. There we go. A coffee cup. That we would do different sizes, couldn't we? So what do you imagine is going to happen with this? And
Miracle.
do we want 3? Let's have 3. Oh, look at that. It's already a mess. I knew I shouldn't have let anyone else have any ideas. Oh, it's running off a little bit. But this is what you've come to expect, isn't it? Madness with a paintbrush. Whenever I get a paintbrush in my hand, I have delusions of grandeur, of being almost an artist instead of a charlatan. Right, let's spin it. I think that was a bit fast. It may have spun all of it off. Ooh, so we've got a little bit of movement, not a huge amount. At the moment it doesn't look very prepossessing. So there we go, that's your first colour. And then some blue was mentioned. I think we go for this one. I might need to get a second paint palette. Just overrun a little bit. Apologies for overrunning, everyone. If you need to go and have your lunch or evening meal, don't forget it is being recorded, so you can come back and see the mess that this ends up being. It could take us some time. Oh, it's the madness of my demos you all like. Well, that's good then. You're in the right place. And Randy, question, ever come to the US to do demos? Not yet. I've been virtually a few times. I've done demos for clubs in Georgia, Florida, New Jersey, Virginia. So I'm trying to break into America. So if you have any contacts, feel free to let them know about me.
You need to be at the AAW, boy.
I am in the AAW, Roger.
Yeah, but you need to be in one of their shows.
I've tried. I mean, the last 2 years when they put out their call for demonstrators, they've used a photograph of me demonstrating. They didn't pick me last year.
Fools. They should have done.
Well, in my application this year, I put that, oh, it's so nice to actually be the face of the AAW call for demonstrators. I don't know that sentiment plays much part, though, in the process. Right, I've got some blue. Now, one of you said something about putting the colours on the outside, so let's try that. So, we're going to build up lots of different shapes with this one, I think. I think I want to go a little faster. This one blank is not quite so balanced as some of the others. It's causing lots of vibration. There goes another remote control of the headstock. Interesting. We've got sort of like a little double touch there, but I do like it where these edges. Has this got potential? I
If you
think
put it in reverse, what happens?
if I put it in reverse, we shall see what happens. But I'm not going to fall for putting the paint on here, Roger.
The chuck flies off.
The chuck is held on with some grub screws. Just go over here. Crank up the speed. Beginning to move, but I think the blue is not quite so runny as it could be. But I quite like the idea of it not moving quite so far. Now, who is beginning to like this? I can only see a few of you because only a few of you are brave enough to have your cameras on. A couple of you, yeah.
Interesting the way up at the top there's not much of the blue run. That's right. Aye. The rest, yeah. I like it.
Thank you. Steve, are you happy with the green, or do you want some more semicircles of green? Or semicircles of a different colour?
Have you got a real red?
A real red? Right, I'll give you a choice of real reds when I finish rummaging around in here. There should be another box of paints. Real red. I have a Joe Sonia pearlescent red. That is quite... It's not coming out as red on the screen as it is in real life. It's a bit redder. Or many years ago I was persuaded by the mad genius of Ed Oliver to buy some unicorn spit, which is a gel stain and a glaze. And look, oh, this one hasn't even been opened, so I don't know what sort of red it is. It's not quite
The first red.
not quite cherry red. Yeah. Well, anything unicorn is not real. It really real, is it? It's made up. It's not really a paint. Okay, so we got red. Where am I going with this red? Arches small at outside, progressing larger toward inside for another time. Ooh. I'm debating whether to go with the red across here as semicircles,
Would work.
or to go a bit shallower with them, or maybe some red in here. But I want to do something. I think I'm going to go and with some more semicircles to begin with. I think those green semicircles are a fab idea. I wish I'd thought of it myself, but I didn't. Flow medium, here we go. So flow medium going into that red. Just get that mixed up. How much have we got? Oh, we're only over by 10 minutes so far, not too bad. But this bit of... Where's my roll of tape gone now? Just going to wipe the green off here. I like the yellow behind this actually. I like all the sort of the bright. Well, we're going to have the other primary colour now, aren't we? Yellow, blue and red, and then secondary colours. It could become some kind of colour wheel. Right, so a bit of red. And I think I've made this a bit thinner. There's one. The blue is not quite dry, so we've got a bit of contamination in there. I forgot about drying it. And sometimes these things that look an absolute mess, in fact, stay looking an absolute mess. Sometimes they become something quite spectacular. So that's running in reverse as well. Running out of room on there. I'll put it back to the right way. So yeah, so I made the red thinner, and I think that's quite interesting. I'll show you a view from here. But I think my inept abilities with a paintbrush to make neat to make neat arches is a bit challenging here.
Stuart,
Yeah.
how about trying a one line diagonal but off centre? Just straight down.
Just straight
as
down.
A line.
Yeah. I mean that will give us.
I think that do something more.
I think you're right. I'd like to do it straighter than I'm probably going to do it, but I'm going to stick with the red to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one just down here.
Good.
And I think that I like that so much I'm going to do one of the other colours cutting across it, sort of put me in mind a bit of the 3D ribbons. And although
Yes.
we're building something, probably, you know, some of this is going to get lost in the middle, but it's out here where we're building the pattern up that's going to be more interesting, I think. Okay, so a bit of blue, which I will run across there.
How about some real green?
While I've got it, well, I'm going to do one of these.
Yeah.
Oh no, that green, that's ugh.
Yeah, I could mix a green up with the blue and the yellow. So that's getting more interesting. I think it needs a couple of lines of red. I don't want to put them parallel to each other, but I'll do one across there. And it's quite interesting not drying the paint off as well, actually. I mean, I could have dried that blue a bit. This is good fun. This is what this yellow one was always intended to be, a bit of an experiment and see what happens. So yeah, I think the second red has worked. The blue less successful. The green probably, I hate to say it, Roger, but you're right. You know.
Bless you, my son, you're forgiven your sins.
Oh, thank you. Would you like some brilliant green instead? Or is that similar? Let's have a look. No, that's a bit. It's a bit greyy, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd like a darky green.
A darky green. A dark green. Okay. Just clean the end of that tube off. And the problem is I have got a dark green, but it's transparent. But maybe it's worth trying. In fact, it might be worth giving it a quick surface dry. Right, so let's put some in there. It's still on the thick side, even though it's transparent. It might seem counterintuitive to thin it down, but this is just to give it some movement. And maybe this is time for another one of the flat brushes. Give that a quick rinse out. 1 pot, 2 pot, 3 pots. Right, mix that up. This is interesting. It's mixing up quite strangely, a bit lumpy. There we go, smoothing out now. Okay, back onto the tailstock. And so for these green lines, I think I'm going to do one cutting across there and another one across there and spin it. Right, so where we've got one there, one there. They sort of run a little, not very much. Maybe I need to put a bit thicker coat on. I'm trying not to keep saying more on because it is my nickname, isn't it, Roger? But people do hear the hyphen in there when I say I've got a friend who calls me Stuart Moron Farini. You can definitely hear the comma. But
At least you can spell hyphen. The flush more then.
There, now. I mean, yeah, it is art by committee, and often my demos get to this level. The very first club demo I did up in Birstall in Yorkshire, the last demo piece of the night was a "You Decide the Colours" audience, and it was horrible. We all agreed it was horrible. It was just a bit of fun. But this has given me something to think about with the transparent colours. And maybe I've actually found a use for them. So I've got transparent red here. For the I think there's enough around the edges for something to happen. I'd like to take a little bit of the inside out tonight just to see how it goes. But I'm going to do a bit of red because it seems to me round here it could do with something a bit lighter. I'm fighting the urge to put a final coat of white on. I don't think I'm going to put white on. Possibly a transparent blue might have been possible if I had one.
Have you got any transparent black?
Yes, I can water it down. I've got some of the old the Chestnut metallic black, which is a very thin one that might put a thin line on, but I don't know. I think it'd be nice to actually keep black off this one, and just keep those bright, strong, bright colours. Right, so mixing up the last, maybe the last colour. I wonder if there's much mileage in this as a you know, for people who want to do wood toning and colouring but haven't got the paints, and you just tell me what to do and I create the works for you. It could be quite lucrative, couldn't it?
Later what they'll pay for.
Right, so let's do one there. Oh, picked up the wrong paint. And one there. Spin it and hopefully it'll go a bit more transparent than it looked there. Yes, it has. Look at that. Now, we've got nothing running across here. I think we need something running across there. What have we got? We've got transparent green. I don't think I've got a transparent blue. So I think it'll have to be the green, which is this one. We'll see how that works out. I think down like that. There we go, nearly done. Oh, no white! All white. Okay, that's interesting. Valerie's put the comment, no white in capitals and lots of exclamation marks. And then Al has gone white. So it's 50-50.
Stuart, put some transparent black in the middle.
In the middle, as a circle, and
Yeah.
let it spread. And that will be our... I think that would be a unifying
I just did that
colour.
with my got a disc on my screen.
Oh, yeah.
I can see it. Yeah.
I think I've got one indoors where I've done that with a very busy background, and then if you put black on, like as the sort of unifying, it would definitely have to be black and not white. But I haven't got an opaque, a transparent black, but I have got. Can I find it? I have something called Clyster medium. Now, this is a Joe Sonia product that I've just remembered about, which is a transparent medium. It might make the black a bit transparent. It might not. So, are we prepared? Are we prepared to ruin it?
Yes.
Always. I mean, I think it's important to just try these things out. And just play with them, but I definitely want to come back to these transparent paints, and I probably want to go to Hobbycraft tomorrow and buy some more. Right, so I put a bit of this. I mean, we've already got flow medium in with the black. I'm not going to start a new bit of black. Let's see how we get on with this. Now, I got these little chocolate molds to mix my paint up in because I read somewhere that the paint just dries hard in them and then you just pop it out and it doesn't stick. Oh, I haven't had that success with it. What I found is the paint never actually dries. So that's still just as easy perhaps to get rid of. Right, now my feeling is that we want this to be let's come on straight onto the end, quite close in. I don't want too much at first. I'm going to put it on slowly to begin with and just work out how far out it goes. I think probably a couple of inches. I'll put it on about there, I think. There's an alarming greyness over appearing in that spinning round. Right, so it's got this far. It hasn't got all the way out here, which I think is a shame. But it is transparent. Can you see there? So you can see how it's different here over the yellow than it is over the red. So that's pleasing to know that my Clyster medium works. But I think it needs to go a little further. All the way? Or are we saying, stop, you idiot? Or stop, you genius?
All the way.
All the way!
All the way, you genius.
I'd say genii, as we've all been together on this ride. Oh, stop bar. I should have played some hypnotizing music over that. Right, so we now have black pretty much as come all the way out to there. I think that might be it. Or do we want a couple of thin black lines here and here?
How about some white lines?
Oh, Roger, you're being provocative, aren't you? You're trying to wind Valerie up. It's just like being back in the
Outside the
classroom.
edge.
You'd say the edge, right out here. I mean, I was thinking if I put some here, it would give that blue a bit of crispness. I quite like this edge with the lines coming across it. I'm not sure on this one. I'd want to put it as a solid black line. But round here, I mean, I was a little heavy-handed, I think, earlier on there. If there's a bit that doesn't excite me too much, it's probably that bit. I think I'm going to take this as a if it goes wrong, it's my fault. No one's come in and said, no, don't do that, you idiot. And they still haven't. And they still haven't.
And they're never going to.
No, when you come. So, okay. Sorry.
Ooh, I think, although it's a very thin line, whether I've just suddenly developed better seeing or vision or something, I think that has actually lifted the whole thing. Curious as about what happened over here where that line of blue was that there to begin with. I don't think it was. I think this has picked up some other blue when I span it so fast, and it's flicked out onto those edges, and that crispness isn't quite there.
Is it taking your eye into the middle?
I think it probably is. It's framing this bit more, isn't it? Just that bit of black in there. I mean, I was thinking of doing one in there as well, which I think perhaps would be overkill. But I'm actually going to give it a go. Who knows? We might just end up keeping that bit. Oh, it's playtime.
Do it, yeah. Good boy.
I'm pleased the bar magnets on my box are so strong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that, but I don't like that one is a bit thicker than that one. So
Make the outer one thicker.
I'm going to make the outer one thicker. What a brilliant idea, Roger. Let's make the outer one thicker. I'll do that. Did you see a little drop fall off the brush? Yeah, I think that is a stop, and I think the only bit that gets turned out is this little bit here. I don't know if we all agree.
Are you going to put the poly on that one as well?
Oh, do you know? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to put something glossy on it because the colours are so vibrant. Sometimes when you put a glossy thing on, top on, you'll get a glare on the surface. I think I want these colours to be popping more. So it's possible that I might put a satin on it instead.
Do they do a satin poly white?
I believe they do, but I've got satin lacquer, but I could probably try a satin, and if I don't like it, cut it back a bit, scuff it up, might flatten it back. But what have we got? What have we done tonight? We've done 4 things. So let me just clear this away, and then I'll only be a couple more minutes. half an hour over. Sorry about that. Hope you've had as much fun as I have.
It's not necessary.
I've loved it. Right. So there we go. There's one. There's two. And there's three. Right, so if we come on to the overhead one then. So we did... What was the first one? I mean, this is a very nice, crisp, clean, inoffensive in comparison effect. You can see there, I think you can just see the grain. You can see the grain. Like I say, if you use lacquer, the grain sometimes will fight centrifuge. Do this kind of effect on a very close grained wood. I've tried it on ash and it really doesn't work. The grain fights behind it. Then we got a little bit more experimental and adventurous, and I think I prefer this one over the first one. Then this is one I've been doing since 2017. If you want to see a very youthful me, well, a slightly more youthful me. 7 years ago, the first one I did of these. It's about video number 4 on my YouTube channel. Go back and have a look and see if it still came out as well. And then we have...
Last haircut, wasn't
it was my last haircut, yes, Roger. And then we have number 4, which on the monitor is not looking as bright as it looks here. So I will take some photographs of them all and send them around as well. I think what I need to do is to have you give a sort of group cheer. You can cheer for as many of them as you want, and we'll see which one is the winner. So unmute your mics. And if you want to give this number 1 a cheer, and remember you can vote for all of them.
Yay!
Okay, that was about 4 on my decibelometer. Okay, number 2. Oh, that's a 5. We have a new first place. Number 3. Oh, I'm saying that's sort of similar to... I've got these two as tying. And number 4.
Yes.
So number 4 is in 4th place. I think you're a bit harsh.
You can send it to me, Steve.
I think you're a bit harsh. I'm doing a demo in Yorkshire on Saturday. In Holmfirth, near Huddersfield and District Woodturners. If you happen to live nearby, I believe there are some tickets still available. I'm having to drive back after that demo all the way back to Brighton to appear in my wife's latest musical storytelling extravaganza. So if you happen to be in Brighton next Saturday, let me know and I'll see if I can sort a ticket out for you. And
are you recording that one?
Probably not, David. Which is a shame. We'll have to see. It depends on the venue. I mean, we've actually got ourselves booked into a venue that we passed. Elspeth went to meet. She thought she was going to look at the venue and see what it was like. In fact, it turned out to be a 2-hour interview of her by the people who run it to see if they thought she would do. They thought she would do, which is great. And we had a run through yesterday, a little festival at Stanmer Park near us. 3-part harmony. It's a bit of a challenge for me, this next show. But maybe if there is a recording, I'll let you know and get you a copy, David, because you were able to come and see us in Edinburgh, weren't you? Which was brilliant last year. But one of the other things they want me to do in the club in Yorkshire is to donate a piece to the raffle. I wonder what I could give them.
No, don't give that away.
I blooming like this. I think this has got a lot of potential. I like the way that it combines straight lines and the arches and the overlapping colours. And Steve, thank you so much for the suggestions. I mean, they did take the centrifuge colouring effect in a different direction. Not just for me, but for all of us fortunate enough to be here on this night. Right,
You
so
carry laundry without the tub.
say again. carry on longer without the tub. I was all what it came out to me. I don't know if anyone else heard that.
Sorry, that wasn't expected for you.
Oh, okay. I was trying to make it make sense, and thinking, how did I hear the right thing? But anyway, the recording of this will be available if you want to watch it again. And when these are dry, I will turn out the middle. I think you'll be surprised how brilliant this looks. I think it'll go from number 4 to at least 3rd place in the next voting. Right, where are we? 36 minutes overrun. Thank you for your time and your attention. If you've got any suggestions for things you'd like to see in a future Zoom, do let me know. And if you are in America and you're in a club and you think, hey, there's this crazy English guy who we want to get doing a Zoom demo for us, even if you're not on Eastern time, which is the kindest time for me to do a demo in America, unless it's a weekend, which is even kinder, during your daytime, not your evening. Look at my hair, it's a bit bouffant. Then do speak to your chapter chairperson. I don't know what they're called, presidents or whatever. And I'd love to demonstrate for you at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right, okay. If you've got any questions, now's your last chance to ask in person. I think it's probably a bit late to put them in the chat. Just a quick look in the chat to see if there was anything that I have missed. Oh, I can't run a mouse.
Thanks very much, Stu.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for putting up with my playtime. So another in the blue line. Another great. Thank you, Stuart. Well done. Oh, thank you, Randy, for the January symposium. Thanks for the hands up, Valerie. Thank you, Tim.
2025 that maybe later on.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I shall look in my inbox excitedly every day. Tim, yes, I'll see you on the 9th. Thank you, John. Al, thank you. Cheers, David. Thanks, Terry. And Mark, thank you. Yeah, good fun. Really good fun. If you're going to be at the AWGB seminar I think that's in 3 weeks' time, then do please come and say hello to me. It'd be great to see you there and meet you if I haven't met you so far. If I have met you and I've forgotten your name, sorry, just remind me.
Just called you at last.
I'm not as good at remembering names as when I had class fulls of 25, 15-year-olds. So there we go. Right, so no more questions. Thank you very much. I will click on the stop recording, and I'll
Thank you very much.
see you next month. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Stuart.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thanks, Stuart.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Nice to see you, Michael. Goodbye.